Hi everyone, this is Ashley and I wanted to say happy Saturday. Today I'm going to make a video on how to take an OPK test strip, which it's actually fairly easy and very similar to, say, a midstream test, which looks like this, and you would simply either dip this into a cup of urine, or you can also opt to put this in your urine stream for a certain amount of time. You just would read the instructions and do it for at least the specified time. This is what a test strip looks like, and it's fairly the same. Now, essentially, a test strip is actually inside of each test, whether it's a disc test, a cassette test, which I want to show you what that looks like. And you would use a dropper the same way. You would just do about 4 to 5 drops, or whatever the test actually specified. This is a New Choice, which is the Dollar Tree brand, which I've used this in the past, which I won't be testing with that today. I just wanted to show you what it looked like. And the instructions are actually very similar, which I'll go over that in just a minute. This is what the test strip looks like, and I'll explain how that works here in a minute. And then, of course, you have the midstream test, which is very similar to a lot of pregnancy tests, where you have the wick. And it essentially is just a test strip inside of a container. And the same with this as well. You're just kind of paying for the, I like to call it packaging, but really the container that it comes in. Okay, so with that being said, let me explain how this works. Normally each month, just a couple days prior to ovulation, we have a surge of what is known as luteinizing hormone. Now, typically we have this hormone running through our system all the time. So 9 times out of 10, not always, but more often than not, when you're testing, you're going to usually get 2 lines. It's almost the same as a pregnancy test, but the difference would be when testing, you would want the test line to be equal to or darker than the control line. So for example, if you get 2 lines and say this right here, to the right is the control, the test line is to the left. If the line is lighter than the control line, you would consider that to be a negative. Whereas if it was equal to, or even the test line was a little bit darker than the control line, that would be considered to be a positive. And the same with this, although it doesn't quite show you picture-wise, but it explains that on the directions. Now, the only tricky thing is if you ever happen to get these little test strips, sometimes you might get a package that looks like this. And it looks very similar to how a pregnancy test would work, where basically a line is a line. But don't be fooled by that. Essentially, you want to get, again, 2 lines, and you want the test line to be equal to or darker than the control line in order for it to be considered a positive result. The other thing is, when doing a ovulation test, or an OPK, which is short for ovulation predictor kit, it's also very important that you want, or better yet, it's highly recommended that you want to use afternoon urine versus first morning urine, which is what pregnancy tests recommend using because of the high concentration. Only because the luteinizing hormone doesn't metabolize properly, usually until later in the afternoon. So it's suggestive to test between 2 and 8 p.m. And you want to use urine that is highly concentrated. So you want to hold it for a minimal of 2 to 4 hours, and you want to try to abstain from beverages, because a diluted result can equal and yield a diluted urine can result in a diluted result on a test. So I've made a couple videos where I've done a few experiments, and you're more than welcome to watch those just to kind of test out that theory. And yes, I have concluded that dilution definitely makes a difference, which is probably why they recommend that you use as highly concentrated of urine as possible. But again, you just don't want to do it in the morning. You want to do it in the afternoon between 2 and 8 p.m. And you also want to make sure that you do it at the same time every day. And on some occasions, you also, depending on a few cycles, you would have to see for yourself. But some people may opt to test twice a day. So maybe once at 2 or 3, and then maybe once at like 7 or 8. Just so they don't miss their surge. And it's not uncommon to get a few positive OPKs in a row Just because, for example, you could get your surge and the first day you test, your body's gearing up, so you get a positive, or say a line that's equal to. The next day you test and the test line is like dark. It's like darker than the control line. So that's your surge going up. And then the third day you test and your surge is coming down. So you get that third positive, and say you ovulate the very next day or even the day of. That's typically, you know, how it can work sometimes. And I've read on some, you know, pregnancy forums and charting forums with inquiries about that, even with myself. Now, there are, of course, variables that can cause multiple positive OPKs. And if that's the case, if you're going a couple cycles and you see, you know, an irregularity, you know, it's highly, of course, recommended that you go call your primary care physician, your gynecologist, make an appointment, kind of get some blood work done, and maybe have them check your levels, because you can have a higher elevation of luteinizing hormone. Now, with that being said, we'll talk about the different MIUs and the sensitivities of some of these tests. A lot of the internet cheapies, the little test strips that you see here, more often than not, they're about 25 MIU. I know that the dollar store brand, well, the Dollar Tree brand, this particular one, New Choice, this is about 25 MIU as well. Some of the other brands that I've used, like Equate, and I've also used First Response, and these are midstream tests. Consumer studies have actually suggested that they are about 100 MIU. Now, when I went online, I actually had to do a little digging and find a website where I could find a higher concentration MIU for my test strips, because I wanted to test with a 40 MIU. Because sometimes if you have a higher level of LH, you want to use typically a 30 to 40 MIU. Because sometimes if you get a test that's just too sensitive, it can yield a false positive. And then vice versa. Sometimes the only way you're going to catch your surge is by using a lower concentration. So with that being said, you might want to get one that's 25 MIU or maybe even lower, because they do make some test strips that are even 10 to 15 MIU. So you might opt to do that as well. So with that being said, let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to dip this, and let me just show you how this works with the test strip. Where it says right here, it says max, you're going to see a line. And when you dip it into the cup, you don't want to dip it past that line. And I highly recommend dipping it for about 5 to 10 seconds, because you don't want to undersaturate the test to where it's going to be a false negative or vice versa. So, and you want your urine to be a nice dark color like this. Rule of thumb for me, I'd prefer to, you know, rather than using the midstream where you dip it in your urine stream, I'd prefer to use the cup, because if it's not concentrated enough for whatever reason, then I'm going to dump it and try again later. But with that being said, this is typically the color that you want your urine to be. So let's just go ahead and dip that in. And again, you don't want to dip it past that black line right there. Now, with pregnancy tests, unlike with OPK'S, now we're doing this at, it's about 8.5 minutes. The difference is, if you have a high enough concentration of HCG, 9 times out of 10 you can get a positive result almost immediately. But sometimes with these OPK'S, you might want to wait the full 5 to 10 minutes, which I recommend doing that to get an accurate reading or an accurate result. So it typically works just a little bit differently. So we're going to go ahead and wait at least the full 5 minutes and see what the result yields. And again, it can be negative or positive. That's not so much the issue. It's more of how to take the test properly. The preparation that goes into it before you take the test, and understanding how the different tests work, and I guess deciding which tests you feel are best for you. Now, if you do want to save a little bit of money, I do highly recommend the internet cheapies and the pink dyes. I highly suggest staying away from the blue dyes. The Equate early ovulation test, which you can get that at Walmart, wasn't too thrilled with that. The blue dyes are, in my opinion, and also from what I've read, they're very hard to read. So I don't recommend getting those. The opacity of the control line versus the test line, it's just like you know, it's almost like if the test line isn't significantly darker than the control line, you wouldn't even know if it was a positive result. So I highly recommend just kind of staying away from the blue dyes. Pink dyes are definitely the way to go. The pink dyes, especially on the test strips, tend to be a bit easier to read. And again, they're very inexpensive. You can go on eBay, you can go on Amazon, you can get like big bundles, you know, 20, 30, 40, 50, even 100 OPK'S. Also a package deal, like say with the little HCG, which is human chorionic gonadotropin, which is the hormone that I guess reacts with the chemicals or the antibody strip on the pregnancy test, which causes it to turn pink if you are in fact pregnant. You can get those little test strips as well, bundled in with OPK'S, very inexpensive. I would say, you know, maybe for 15 to 25 cents a piece. So if you want to go the cheaper route and you like to pee on a stick quite a bit, you know, I highly suggest getting the little internet cheapies, the little test strips. So, and also with that being said, if you have enjoyed watching this video and if it's helped you in any way, and if you're new to testing, I hope that you found it informational and helpful. And, you know, do us a favor and give the video a like and go ahead and subscribe to our channel. That would help me out a great deal so I can continue making these fun videos for everybody, and, you know, share the information. That's what we make them for. You can also catch us on Facebook, facebook.com/pee on a stick freak, Twitter, twitter.com/pee on a stick FRK, or at pee on a stick FRK. And also, same thing with Instagram, pee on a stick freak. More importantly, check us out on our website. We have lots of informational tidbits and videos and, you know, all that good stuff. And that's www.peeonastickfreak.com. If you have any questions, you know, if you have any fun videos that you want to share with us, you know, send them our way. You can also email us at p-on-a-stick-freak@hotmail.com. But send us the footage. I'm getting tongue-tied here. Send us your pictures of your big fat positives and doing, you know, video footage of you doing the happy dance, you know, showing us the big fat positives and, you know, questions that you have and all that good stuff. And essentially we may showcase it on our website. So if you have, and also if you have any neat home pregnancy test ideas or experimental ideas with OPK'S or whatnot, you know, go ahead and email this to us or comment on Facebook or Twitter and let us know. And we may just make a video experimenting with it. So with that being said, let's see. It has been, okay, so it's been almost about 5 minutes. So let's check. Okay. This one is going to be just a tad bit harder to read because the dye, and this is something else I want to go over as well. You can have a whole pack of OPK'S or test strips, midstream test, the cassettes or whatnot. And the dye themselves on an individual test, like on the control line, can be lighter than, say, the test you took yesterday, which you want to do this individually. You don't want to look and say, oh my gosh, the dye is so much lighter than the dye that was on my test yesterday. You want to base it off of the control line. So even if the control line looks a bit lighter, as long as the test line is equal to that or darker, then that's going to be a positive. If it's lighter, then that's going to be considered negative. And of course, if you don't have a line there at all, that's going to be considered a negative test. So I'm going to, based off of what I'm looking at now, because the dye is a bit lighter on the control line than the test I took yesterday, this is absolutely a positive, and this is what a positive would look like, you know, minus a darker dye. So I just kind of wanted to bring that up as well. So there you have it. Now, if you have any more questions on how to take a test, let us know. Oh my goodness, my camera. Okay, I do apologize. I think the flash on my camera went off. So with that being said, I'm just going to kind of Just going to kind of focus right here. If you have any questions, let us know. Email us, phonestickfreak, put the dashes in the middle of each word, at hotmail.com. Go to www.phonestickfreak.com. Like us on Facebook, Phonestick Freak, Instagram, Phonestick Freak, and of course Twitter, which is Phonestick FRK. And also, if nothing else, I really hope that you've enjoyed watching this video. I hope it's been very helpful. And if it has, do us a favor, give it a like and subscribe to our channel. Thank you for watching, and you have a very blessed day.